What happens when America's sweetheart meets her match in a television interview that nobody saw coming? When Kelly Clarkson, the powerhouse vocalist known for her warmth and relatability, sits down with Today's Show host Hoda Kotb for what should have been a routine promotional appearance. The conversation takes a shocking turn that leaves viewers stunned and one of television's most beloved. Personalities walking off set in the middle of a live broadcast, the tension builds from the very first question, creating a confrontation so intense that it exposes a side of Kelly Clarkson that fans have never seen before. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about celebrity interviews. The studio lights were blazing as usual that morning, casting their familiar warm glow across the Today Show set. Hoda Kotb sat comfortably in her signature spot, her notes perfectly arranged on the glass coffee table before her. Kelly Clarkson settled into the guest chair with her characteristic smile, adjusting her vibrant blue dress and tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. The cameras rolled, and what started as any other celebrity interview was about to become television history. "Kelly, welcome back to Today," Hoda began, her voice carrying its usual cheerful tone. "It's always such a pleasure to have you here with us." "Thank you so much for having me, Hoda. I love being here," Kelly replied, her smile genuine and bright. "This show has always felt like home to me." Hoda nodded warmly and glanced down at her notes. "Now, we're here to talk about your new album, but before we dive into that, I have to ask you about something that's been making headlines recently." Kelly's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. "Oh, okay. What's that?" "There have been some reports about tensions between you and some of your fellow coaches on The Voice. Sources are saying that there were some heated exchanges behind the scenes during the last season. Can you tell us what really happened there?" The question hung in the air like a sudden chill. Kelly's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, but her voice carried a new edge when she responded. "I'm sorry, Hoda, but I think there might be some confusion here. I haven't been on The Voice for quite some time now. I think you might be mixing up some information." Hoda leaned forward slightly, her journalistic instincts kicking in. "Actually, Kelly, I'm referring to the reports from your final season. Multiple sources have confirmed that there were some very public disagreements between you and the production team. One source even described a particular incident where you allegedly threw your chair during a heated argument with the show's executive producer." Kelly's posture straightened, and her hands clasped together tightly in her lap. "Hoda, really don't know where you're getting this information from, but it's completely false. I would never behave that way, and frankly, I'm a little surprised that you're bringing up unsubstantiated rumors in what I thought was going to be an interview about my music." The atmosphere in the studio shifted palpably. The production crew behind the cameras could sense the growing tension, and even the usually unflappable Hoda seemed to recognize that she was treading into dangerous territory. But instead of backing down, she pressed forward. "Kelly, I understand your frustration, but these aren't just random rumors. We have multiple sources, and I have to ask, because our viewers deserve to know, is there any truth to the claims that your departure from The Voice was not entirely voluntary?" Kelly's face flushed, and her voice rose slightly. "Are you seriously suggesting that I was fired? That's absolutely ridiculous, and I can't believe you're ambushing me with this right now. I came here to talk about my music, about the new songs I've written that come from a very personal place, and instead, you're attacking my character based on what anonymous sources." Hoda remained composed, but there was a steely determination. In her eyes, "I'm not attacking anyone, Kelly. I'm doing my job as a journalist. If these reports are false, then this is your opportunity to set the record straight." "The record doesn't need to be set straight because there's nothing to set straight," Kelly shot back, her voice growing more animated. "What you're doing right now is irresponsible journalism, and you know it. You're taking gossip and presenting it as fact to your viewers." The tension was now visible to anyone watching. Kelly's hands were gesturing more expressively, her breathing had quickened, and her usual composed demeanor was cracking under the pressure of what she clearly felt was an unfair line of questioning. Hoda, sensing that she might have pushed too far, attempted to pivot. "Kelly, I can see that this is a sensitive topic for you, and I respect that. But you have to understand that when these kinds of stories circulate, People want answers. People want answers, Kelly repeated, her voice incredulous. Or the media wants drama. Because that's what this feels like to me right now, Hoda. It feels like you invited me here under false pretenses just so you could ambush me with tabloid nonsense. The studio had gone completely silent except for Kelly's voice, which was now carrying a raw emotion that viewers had rarely heard from the typically upbeat star. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, unsure of how to capture what was unfolding before them. Hoda took a deep breath and tried once more to regain control of the interview. Kelly, I want you to know that was never my intention. I have nothing but respect for you as an artist and as a person. But when we have credible sources telling us that there were significant issues behind the scenes, don't you think your fans deserve to hear your side of the story? Kelly stared at Hoda for a long moment, her eyes blazing with an intensity that seemed to cut right through the television screen. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and controlled, but there was an unmistakable fury simmering beneath the surface. My fans deserve better than this, Hoda. They deserve better than watching their favorite artists get ambushed on live television with lies and rumors. And you know what? So do I. The words hung in the air like a challenge, and Hoda could feel the weight of them settling over the entire studio. She had interviewed countless celebrities over her career, navigated difficult conversations, and handled hostile guests before. But something about Kelly's tone suggested that this interview was about to take a turn that nobody could have anticipated. Kelly, Hoda said, her voice carefully measured. I hear what you're saying, and I want you to know that I respect your feelings about this. But I also have to be honest with you. These sources aren't just random people. They're individuals who worked closely with you on The Voice. People who were in the room during these alleged incidents. Kelly's eyes widened, and for a moment, she seemed genuinely shocked. People who worked closely with me? Hoda, are you telling me that you've been talking to members of the production crew? People who signed confidentiality agreements? People whose jobs depend on maintaining professional relationships within the industry? I can't reveal my sources, as you well know, but yes, these are people who were present during your time on the show and who felt compelled to speak out about what they witnessed. Hoda replied, her journalistic training keeping her voice steady, even as she could see Kelly's reaction intensifying. Kelly leaned forward in her chair, her voice dropping to a near whisper that somehow carried more menace than if she had been shouting. Let me get this straight. You're telling me that people who were paid to work with me, people who I trusted and treated with nothing but respect and kindness, have been talking to you behind my back, spreading lies about me to a national television audience. Kelly, nobody is spreading lies. These people came forward because they were concerned about a pattern of behavior that they felt was becoming problematic. According to our sources, there were multiple incidents where you lost your temper with staff members, where you made unreasonable demands, and where you created a hostile work environment for people who were just trying to do their jobs. Accusation hit Kelly like a physical blow. Her face went pale, then flushed red with anger. She stood up slightly in her chair, her voice rising to a level that made several crew members instinctively step back. A hostile work environment? Are you out of your mind? I have built my entire career on being kind to people, on treating everyone around me with respect and dignity, and you're sitting here telling me that anonymous sources are claiming I'm some kind of diva monster? Hoda remained seated, but her posture stiffened. These sources aren't anonymous to me, Kelly, and they're telling a very different story about your behavior during stressful moments. One particular incident involved you allegedly screaming at a young production assistant for bringing you the wrong type of water. Water? Kelly's voice cracked with disbelief. You're destroying my reputation on national television over water. Do you hear how insane that sounds? The water incident is just one example, Hoda continued. Seemingly committed to this path despite the obvious distress it was causing her guest, there are reports of you being consistently late to rehearsals, refusing to work with certain crew members, and on one occasion, allegedly telling a makeup artist that she was incompetent and demanding that she be fired immediately. Kelly was now fully standing, her hands shaking with rage. I cannot believe what I'm hearing right now. You're taking gossip, rumors, and outright lies, and you're presenting them as fact to millions of viewers. Do you have any idea what this could do to my career, to my reputation, to my family? The studio had become a powder keg, and everyone present could feel it. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of this unprecedented meltdown, but nobody seemed quite sure what to do. Hoda, however, pressed on with what appeared to be grim determination. "Kelly, if these allegations are false, then surely you can provide your side of the story. Can you tell us about any conflicts you might have had with the production team? Were there disagreements about creative direction? About your role on the show? My side of the story?" Kelly's voice was now trembling with fury. "My side of the story is that I showed up every single day, did my job with professionalism and grace, treated everyone around me with kindness and respect, and left the show on my own terms to focus on my own career and my family. That's my side of the story, Hoda." "But you're not denying that there were conflicts," Hoda pressed. "You're not denying that there were difficult moments behind the scenes." Kelly stared at her for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was ice cold. "Of course, there were difficult moments. It's television, Hoda. It's a high-pressure environment where people are working long hours under intense scrutiny. But the difference between difficult moments and the picture you're painting of me is enormous, and I think you know that." "So you acknowledge that there were tensions," Hoda said, leaning forward as if she had found the opening she was looking for. "I acknowledge that making television is hard work and that sometimes people disagree about creative decisions." Kelly replied through gritted teeth, "But what you're suggesting, that I was abusive or unprofessional or created some kind of toxic environment, that's not just wrong, it's malicious." Hoda nodded slowly. "I understand that this is difficult for you to hear, but one source specifically mentioned an incident where you allegedly threw a script at a director during a disagreement. About song selection? Can you address that specific allegation?" The question seemed to be the final straw. Kelly's composure, which had been hanging by a thread throughout the interview, finally snapped completely. She stood up fully now, her chair rolling backward. "As she did, I threw a script at a director." Her voice was incredulous, almost hysterical. "Hoda, I have never thrown anything at anyone in my entire life. I was raised better than that. I conduct myself better than that. And the fact that you're sitting here repeating these lies as if they're established facts is absolutely disgusting." The studio was electric with tension now. Every person present seemed to be holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Hoda, perhaps finally beginning to realize that she had pushed too far, attempted to de-escalate. "Kelly, I can see that you're upset, and I want you to know that I never intended for this interview to cause you distress. I'm simply trying to get to the truth of these allegations." "The truth," Kelly's laugh was bitter and harsh. "The truth, Hoda, is that you invited me here under false pretenses. The truth is that you've spent the last 10 minutes destroying my character based on gossip and rumors. The truth is that I trusted you, and you've betrayed that trust in the most public way possible." "I haven't betrayed anything, Kelly. I'm doing journalism. When serious allegations are made about public figures, it's my responsibility to ask the hard questions." Kelly shook her head, her eyes blazing with an anger that seemed to consume her entirely. "No, Hoda, what you're doing isn't journalism. What you're doing is character assassination, and I won't sit here and let you continue to do it." The words seemed to echo in the suddenly silent studio, and for a moment, time appeared to stand still. Hoda sat frozen in her chair, perhaps finally grasping the full magnitude of what she had unleashed. But if she thought Kelly was finished, she was about to discover just how wrong she could be. "You know what the most insulting part of this entire ambush is?" Kelly continued, her voice now carrying a dangerous calm that was somehow more unsettling than her previous anger. "It's that you're sitting there acting like you're some kind of crusading journalist exposing corruption, when what you're really doing is destroying someone's life for ratings." Hoda straightened in her chair, her professional composure finally beginning to crack under the weight of Kelly's accusations. "That's not fair, Kelly. I'm not doing this for ratings. I'm doing this because these are serious allegations that deserve to be addressed." "Serious allegations," Kelly repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "From anonymous sources who are supposedly so concerned about my behavior that they felt compelled to call a gossip show to share their concerns. Give me a break, Hoda. We both know exactly what this is." "This isn't a gossip show," Hoda protested, but her voice lacked its usual conviction. Kelly laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Oh, really? Then what would you call it when you invite someone on your show to talk about their new music, and instead spend the entire time trying to destroy their reputation with unsubstantiated rumors. What would you call it when you betray the trust of a guest who has been nothing but kind and respectful to you over the years? Hoda's face flushed, and for the first time since the interview began, she seemed genuinely rattled. Kelly, I understand. But you're angry. But you need to understand that when people come forward with these kinds of allegations, we have a responsibility to investigate them. People came forward. Kelly's voice rose again, her anger reigniting. Or did you go looking for people who might be willing to say negative things about me? Because there's a big difference, Hoda, and I think we both know which one this really is. The accusation hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Hoda opened her mouth to respond, but Kelly wasn't finished. You want to know what I think happened here? I think someone at your network decided that they needed a big story, something that would get people talking, something that would generate clicks and controversy. And they looked around and said, hey, let's go after Kelly Clarkson. She's been too successful, too happy, too beloved for too long. Let's see if we can find some dirt on her. That's absolutely not what happened, Hoda insisted, but her voice was shaking now, isn't it? Kelly shot back. Then explain to me how these sources suddenly materialized right around the time you were booking me for this interview. Explain to me how people who worked with me years ago suddenly felt compelled to share their concerns with a morning show host. Explain to me how any of this makes sense unless it was orchestrated. Hoda was visibly struggling now, her carefully maintained professional facade crumbling under Kelly's relentless assault. Ellie, I can assure you that nobody orchestrated anything. These sources reached out to us because they felt it was important for the truth to come out. The truth, Kelly's voice was incredulous. The truth, Hoda, is that you've been sitting here for the past 15 minutes trying to convince America that I'm some kind of monster based on gossip and lies. The truth is that you've ambushed me on live television and tried to destroy everything I've worked for my entire career. The studio was so quiet that the hum of the cameras seemed deafening. Everyone present seemed to be witnessing something unprecedented, something that would be talked about for years to come. But Kelly wasn't done yet. You want to talk about hostile work environments? Kelly continued, her voice building to a crescendo. How about the hostile environment you've created right here, right now, for me? How about the way you've made me feel unsafe and attacked in what should have been a safe space? Hoda finally found her voice again, but it came out weak and uncertain. Kelly, I never meant for you to feel unsafe. That was never my intention. Your intention doesn't matter, Kelly snapped. What matters is the impact of your actions, and the impact is that you've humiliated me, attacked my character, and tried to destroy my reputation on live television based on lies and rumors. They're not lies, Hoda said quietly, but the fight seemed to have gone out of her. Kelly stared at her for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was filled with a cold fury that seemed to cut through the air like a knife. You know what, Hoda? I'm done. I'm done with this interview. I'm done with your questions, and I'm done pretending that this is anything other than a hatchet job designed to tear me down for your entertainment. She reached down and unclipped the small microphone from her dress, the tiny action somehow carrying enormous weight in the tense atmosphere of the studio. You can take your sources, your allegations, and your so-called journalism, and you can keep them, because I won't sit here for another second and let you continue to attack me. Hoda seemed to realize that she was losing control of the situation entirely. Kelly, please, let's just take a breath here. We can talk about your music, we can move on to something else. Kelly's laugh was sharp and bitter. Move on. You think we can just move on after what you've done here? You think I'm going to sit here and smile and talk about my music after you've spent the last 20 minutes trying to destroy me? I wasn't trying to destroy you, Hoda protested weakly. Then you're either lying or you're incredibly naive about what you've just done, Kelly replied, tossing the microphone onto the coffee table, where it landed with a small thud that seemed to reverberate through the silent studio. She stood up fully now, straightening her dress and looking directly into the main camera for the first time during the interview. To anyone watching this who has supported me over the years, who has bought my music, who has come to my shows, who has believed in me as a person and as an artist, I want you to know that everything you've heard here today is a lie. I have never been anything other than professional, kind, and respectful to the people I work with. Her voice cracked slightly, but she continued. And to the people at this network who thought this was a good idea, who thought ambushing me with lies and rumors was acceptable journalism, I hope you're satisfied with what you've accomplished here today. She turned back to Hoda, who was sitting in stunned silence, seemingly unable to process what was happening. I trusted you, Hoda. I considered you a friend, and you've betrayed that trust in the most public and humiliating way possible. I hope it was worth it. With that, Kelly Clarkson turned and walked off the set, leaving Hoda Kotb sitting alone at the coffee table, staring after her in shock as the cameras continued to roll. The studio remained frozen in stunned silence as one of America's most beloved entertainers disappeared through the studio doors, her exit marking the end of what would undoubtedly become one of the most talked-about moments in morning television history. The confrontation was over, but the impact of what had just unfolded would reverberate far beyond the walls of that studio, forever changing how viewers saw both the guest who had been pushed too far and the host who had pushed her there. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Do you believe Kelly was right to walk off, or should she have stayed to defend herself further? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more shocking celebrity moments that you won't see anywhere else.